Thank you for volunteering to help with the Blue Ridge Parkway Pollinator Project, which is being coordinated through a partnership between the National Park Service and Appalachian State University, with funding provided by Appalachian State and the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation. In this video, we will discuss retrieval of specimens from your assigned milepost sites. At this point, we assume that you have a transect set up, like Chloe's here, of 3 groups of 3 traps, yellow, blue, and white in color, and that the traps have been filled about 2/3 to 3/4 full of propylene glycol tinted blue. Below are the specimen retrieval dates scheduled for Appalachian State. Appalachian State student teams will be collecting specimens from our traps every other week. There are 11 collections planned total. I have recommended to students to pick a day of the week during this time period to always sample on so that the sampling periods are evenly spaced 2 weeks apart. You don't have to adhere to our dates, but please try to sample every other week if you can. App State teams will be using 2 methods to collect specimens during our sampling periods. Like all of you, we will have glycol traps set out at assigned mileposts. We are also conducting 10-minute netting surveys of pollinators foraging on blooming plants at each site. The netting survey may capture different composition of species than the traps. However, the netting survey is optional for our citizen science volunteers. If you have a net and want to do this additional component, there are instructions at the end of this video. Let's take a look at the supplies you will be needing to complete your specimen retrievals. First of all, to retrieve specimens from the glycol traps, you will need the remaining supplies that you did not use to set up your traps originally. That is, you'll need the extra plastic cups of each color that we provided to you. You'll need the leftover propylene glycol that we gave you that's been tinted blue. You'll need your container of ethanol used for bee preservation. You'll need your brine shrimp net. You'll need the bag of whirl packs, which are the plastic bags with twist ties. You'll need your gallon-sized plastic Ziploc bags, your mechanical pencils and labels, and you should always carry a copy of the research permit with you in case someone stops and asks you questions. As we mentioned in the last video, some additional items will also be helpful, such as a plastic tub or deep tray to hold the jugs of liquid to keep them from spilling in your car, a reflective vest, which is both for safety and to let visitors on the parkway know that you have official business there, a hammer or mallet in case your traps need to be reset, scissors or pruners for trimming vegetation, and a clipboard is helpful for holding your paper supplies. If you're doing the optional netting survey, you will also need a basic insect or butterfly net, some flexible leather gloves, a timekeeping device such as a watch, stopwatch, or phone, and a plastic container filled with soapy water, such as a large coffee can or Tupperware container. So let's first cover retrieving specimens from the propylene glycol traps. It makes things go a lot more smoothly if you do some preliminary preparations before leaving home or upon arriving to your site. Most importantly, we recommend writing the pertinent information on the small labels that will accompany each sample and putting those labels into the whirl packs. Each whirl pack receives a small label that tells the site or milepost number, collection date, and what color of cup or netting survey the samples were collected from. If the sample is from a netting survey, we also need to know the number of people doing the netting to standardize the number of samples caught. Prepare a label for each trap, 9 traps total, 3 each of yellow, blue, and white, and also for the netting survey samples if you are participating in that. Put each label in a whirl pack and put all of the whirl packs into a 1-gallon Ziploc bag. Now you're ready. If you weren't sure how to open the whirl pack, all you need to do is to tear off the top, pull on the white tabs to open, and blow in the whirl pack to expand it. Now you can put in the label. All right, so now you're ready to go ahead and retrieve specimens from your site. When you get to your site, your cup should look something like this. When you arrive, you'll see, if you look down into the trap, that most of your specimens have probably sunk down to the bottom, although there may be a few floating at the top of the cup. So the first steps to retrieving your specimens from the cups are, first, to remove the original cup, place a new cup of the same color into the trap. Place the net over the new cup so that you can pour the liquid through the net into the new trap. Just a little helpful hint here. If the cup is stuck in the trap, push upward from the bottom rather than trying to twist it out. We found that the cups would easily break if they were twisted, mainly because they seem to be a little bit brittle plastic. Go ahead and pour the specimens from the old cup through the net so that the net catches the specimens and the liquid flows into the new cup. At the end, you should have something that looks like this. Now you need to get the specimens out of the net. We found it easiest to pinch the net from underneath and then push the specimens into the whirl pack. Many specimens stick to the net, so you will need to pick them off individually. Bees range in size from large to very tiny, so make sure to get even the smallest of the insects off of the net. Let's watch an App State student crew run through the process. So it's really better to actually swirl the cup with the specimens in it before you pour it into the net to more evenly distribute the insects into the liquid. But here you can see that Ronnie is picking out the ones that actually stayed in the cup to make sure he got everything. Okay, so the new cup is in the trap. Now to put the specimens from the net into the whirl pack. And most of the insects will go ahead and fall into the whirl pack, but some of them will stick to the net, so you will have to do some picking off of the net. Bees can range anywhere in size from very large to very tiny, so even if something just looks like a gnat, go ahead and pick it off and throw it into the whirl pack so that we can take it back to the lab and take a look at it under the microscope. And you can see here how it is pretty nice to have a helper, more than one person working these sites. Obviously one person can do it, but teams are always helpful too. So the last steps here are to add ethanol to the specimens, seal up your whirl pack, and check to make sure that you have a label inside. Here, Melanie and Bailey adding ethanol to the specimen bag. A few things to note here. Their label is clearly already in the bag. The amount of ethanol that these students are putting in the whirl pack is actually more than what's needed. We really just need enough to cover the specimens, and that really to just cover them. Any more than that will probably leak out anyway. And here you can see nicely how Melanie is closing the whirl pack, folding the edges over multiple times, and then twisting the ends. And just repeat all these steps until all 9 traps have been emptied and reset. Lastly, just a couple of notes. A single collection event will result in whirl packs of samples from 9 traps and possibly a netting survey. If you prefer to use fewer whirl packs, it's okay to put specimens from the 3 traps of the same color in the same whirl pack. The specimens must be from the same site and collection day. This will result in 4 whorl packs at the end versus 9. Once you finish collecting from all the traps, there are a few additional tasks you may need to complete. For example, if any of your traps were knocked over or you have a broken trap, you may need to complete some repairs. And so that's why we recommend that you carry your mallet or hammer with you, even for the later collections. Sometimes you need to top off the traps with a little bit more propylene glycol if it hasn't rained for a while, or if the glycol seems really dilute from lots of rain. Go ahead and just top it off a little bit to make sure that the cups are 2/3 to 3/4 full with nice clear blue propylene glycol. Again, you'll need to trim the vegetation around the cups almost each time that you visit to make sure that you can find them later on and access them, and also so that the pollinators have a good aerial view. Remember that we really just need about 1 meter across just so the cups are exposed enough for the view of pollinators. That may be the end of the work for many of you, but some of you may choose to participate in the optional netting survey. And this survey is where we locate a patch or patches of blooming plants in or near to your site, and we do a quick survey for foragers for 10 minutes. Now, it's possible that there may only be a few blooming plants in your site, and that's just fine. Especially early on, some of the best patches might be along the road where there's more disturbance and more mowing. Rather than trying to retrieve specimens out of the net during the 10 minutes, the protocol we're using is to keep everything in net until the end. So the overall protocol is to swing the net to trap the individual and hold the pointy end of the net up to allow the insect to get to the top. Let's watch me demonstrate this in my yard. This protocol works because bees have a natural tendency to fly upward when trapped in a net. You can use a gloved hand to pinch the net together and keep the specimens from escaping. Make sure that you're wearing a glove to keep from getting stung, and continue sampling this way for 10 minutes, leaving all of the samples that you have in the net until the end. At the end of the 10 minutes, place the end of a net in a container of soapy water to euthanize the insects. What we usually do is we put the net in, close the lid, and leave it there during the drive to our next destination. We make sure to keep the soapy water container in the tub that we mentioned earlier as well, again to keep the soapy water from spilling. By the time we get to our next destination, the specimens are ready to go into the whorl pack with ethanol. So that summarizes the 2 different methods that we're using to collect specimens at our sites. Before you leave your site, make sure to fill out a big label to include with your bag of specimens from that collection event. We want to know the date, collectors' names, milepost, and weather conditions. If you can identify plants, please record the blooming species you observe at your site. If not, you can take a couple of photos and save them with the collection date and milepost in the file name. And so when you're finished, the 1-gallon Ziploc bag should contain all whorl packs from a single collection event at one site, specimens from 9 traps, plus the optional netting survey. Every whorl pack should also have a small label. Include one big label detailing information from the whole collection event in the Ziploc. If you are assigned multiple sites or mileposts, use a separate Ziploc for each site. So lastly, let's talk about a few common issues that you might encounter. So first of all, let's say that you go to your site every 2 weeks and the traps seem to be getting repeatedly knocked down or mowed for some other disturbance. In this case, we recommend possibly moving your traps either further back in the site or moving to a slightly different location. Second, only rarely we have encountered a situation where a rodent or other small animal is chewing holes in the bottom of the cups, causing all the liquid to leak out. What we recommend in this case is basically using a double layer of cups so that the exterior cup gets chewed and the interior cup remains intact. We had pretty good luck with this method, and if you need extra cups, we will provide some at the regional drop-off and pickup site for you. Lastly, if you start to run out of supplies, for example, ethanol or propylene glycol, we will also stage some of these for you at the regional collection sites. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please contact Paul Super from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park or myself from Appalachian State University. Our contact information is below. Thank you.